Hello everyone, welcome to Lukmaan IAS. Today we are going to have the Hindu newspaper analysis dated 3rd of January 2021. We are going to look into some important articles that were there in news today. Okay, so let us quickly see the topics that we are going to discuss for the day. Good morning, Siva. So this is the first topic that we are going to discuss. It is about 8 lakh income reasonable cap for EWS quota. Center tells Supreme Court. So what has happened? Recently the government of India has adopted a measure of giving 10% EWS quota, okay, to the people, like solely on the basis of the economic status of a household. But this was challenged in a court of law, and Supreme Court has sought certain response from the government. So government has responded that like 8 lakh quota, 8 lakh income reasonable quota, okay, it is a reasonable cap for EWS quota. So we will understand many more things related to this topic. After then we will talk about the patchwork policy, okay. So this topic is related to Indian economy, where the government has overturned its own decision of increasing the GST rates for the textile and clothing sector. So we will look into that part also. And the third topic that we are going to discuss is about state schemes can cast a lifeline to this welfare plan, okay. So this particular topic is with reference to government scheme, where like government of India used to provide maternity benefit to the women like who have delivered a baby in institutionalized centers, okay. So we will talk about that particular government scheme, and we will talk about like what needs to be done to revamp that government scheme. And the next topic that we are going to talk about is draft national air sports policy, okay. We will talk about national air sports policy pushes for safety standards, okay. Government of India has drafted a new policy. Its name is National Air Sports Policy. So we will talk about what this policy aims to do, and at the same time we will also understand like what are the air sports that are going to be regulated through this policy. And we will also talk about certain regulatory bodies that are going to be brought under this particular policy by the government. Then we will talk about the next topic, which is the financial standing of the RBL Bank, okay. So you might be knowing that RBL is a small finance bank, okay. So it is a relatively new bank, and so recently the bank has defaulted on certain things. So we will understand about recent developments with respect to this, okay. So with this, now let us move to the first topic. Okay. So this is the first topic. It is 8 lakh income quota reasonable cap for EWS quota, center tells Supreme Court, okay. The criteria is more stringent than the one for OBC creamy layer, the government says, okay. So as I have already discussed that recently the government of India has moved a law that gives 10% reservation for in government jobs, and as well as in admission in like government colleges and institutions. So this 10% quota was being decided based on the income category of a household, okay, based on the income level of a household. But this figure, like what should be the cap, means like what should be the income level of a household, so that like they can get the benefit of this EWS quota. It was decided to be 8 lakh per annum, okay, by the government. But like there were many NEET aspirants, okay, NEET National Entrance Eligibility Test. I mean like through this test people get admission into medical colleges after their 12th standard, okay. So many NEET aspirants filed cases in the High Courts and Supreme Court of India, and it was being heard by the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court has asked response from the government, like on what basis have you decided this 8 lakh to be the cap, okay. So like at that particular point of time there was a speculation that government has just simply taken the figure, I mean like of 8 lakh that was earmarked for the creamy layer of OBC. I mean like you have other backward classes reservation, and under that they have categorized two sections of people. One is creamy layer, other is non-creamy layer. Creamy layer are those people whose household income is above 8 lakh per annum. But like when we talk about non-creamy layer, these are those households where the annual income is less than 8 lakh per annum. Okay. So now the government has given clarification. Government had set up a expert committee for that matter, and that expert committee has evaluated, okay, it has evaluated this particular policy, I mean like this 10% EWS quota related thing, and after then it has given response to the Supreme Court of India. Okay, based on the based on the observation of that committee, the central government has given response to the Supreme Court of India, and this article is with respect to that topic itself. Okay, so the government has said, the government committee that was set up, okay, it has reported the Supreme Court that income is a feasible criteria for defining the economically weaker section. Okay, so in this case, like they have used the criteria of income only. So they have responded to the Supreme Court that income is a reasonable criteria for defining economically weaker sections in society, and the annual family income of rupees 8 lakh is a reasonable threshold to determine the EWS in order to extend reservation in admissions and jobs. Okay, so what has happened, the expert panel or the expert committee that was set up by the government, it has given some prescriptions. It has said, given its observation to the government. What were the observations? It is listed over here. So the current, one of the observation is the current gross annual family income limit of rupees 8 lakh or less for economically weaker section may be retained. Okay, so this expert committee or expert panel has said like this particular cap can be retained. I mean like 8 lakh is a reasonable figure, and then EWS may exclude, irrespective of income, a person whose family has 5 acres of agricultural land and above. Okay, so here they are saying like although a family may be having less than 8 lakh per annum like income, in that case also if a family has more than 5 acres of agricultural land, in that case that particular household will be excluded from the EWS category. The residential asset criterion may altogether be removed. Okay, so here these are the observations of that committee. We will understand about like earlier there was speculation that the government has adopted this particular measure mechanically. It means like without looking into the minute details about 8 lakh, means like why only income criteria should be there, why 8 lakh should be set up as a as a ceiling limit for getting benefit under the EWS quota. Okay, so here we will understand more. So the government has responded by citing that like this 10% EWS quota is not same as that of creamy and non-creamy layer in case of OBC criteria, other backward classes. So like they have classified into two categories. One is creamy layer, other is non-creamy layer. Creamy layer means like those households that have annual income of more than above 8 lakh per annum. Non-creamy layer are those households where the annual income is less than 8 lakh per annum. Okay, so this was the thing. But here again they have adopted 8 lakh as the income 8 lakh as the criteria. But government has clarified that like that 8 lakh is not same as the OBC related thing. Okay, so in what sense it is not same, it is mentioned in this article. Okay, they have clearly defined like why 8 lakh rupees is not same. Okay, so it said that the income criteria for EWS was more stringent than the one for the OBC creamy layer. Okay, so they said like in case of income criteria for EWS quota, it is more stringent, it is more difficult, okay, than the OBC creamy layer. Why? Because firstly, EWS criteria relates to the financial year prior to the year of application. Okay, in case of EWS criteria, it relates to the financial year prior to the year of application, where the income criteria for the creamy layer in OBC category is applicable to gross annual income for 3 consecutive years. Okay, so on one hand we have EWS, on other hand we have OBC, okay, criteria. In this case, that annual income is calculated on the basis of the previous year only, on the basis of the previous year annual income, okay, previous year. But in case of OBC, it talks about, you know, last 3 years, okay, last 3 years annual income of the household, okay, gross annual income of 3 consecutive years. This is the primary difference, this is the first difference between these two things. Secondly, okay, in case of OBC creamy layer, okay, in case of OBC creamy layer, we are talking about this one, income from salaries, agriculture and traditional artisanal profession are excluded from the consideration. Okay, in this case, like, you know, other factors, for example, income from salaries, agriculture and traditional artisanal professions are excluded. But you know, whereas in the EWS criteria, it includes all the sources including farming. Okay, so like from whatever sources you have earned the income, it will include all those sources. Okay, it will include all those sources including farming. So despite being the same cutoff number, their composition is different. Okay, so government is saying that although the number is same, cutoff number means like 8 lakh rupees is same, but the composition of that 8 lakh is different. In case of OBC, okay, they, like, you know, do not include other sources of income like salaries, agriculture, traditional artisanal professions, etc. But in this case, it includes all these sources. Okay, in the case of EWS, it includes all these sources. So that's why the expert panel and the expert committee have suggested that these two criteria cannot be equated. They are not the same. Okay, so the desirability of a uniform income based threshold has been upheld by the Supreme Court, and it can be adopted across the country as a matter of economic and social policy. Okay, so this is the thing. This expert panel has suggested that, like, the desirability of a uniform income based threshold was already upheld by the Supreme Court, and this particular, you know, government policy is in line with the, you know, Supreme Court's earlier judgments on similar cases. So the panel has recommended that, like, you know, it can be adopted as a policy measure in that case. Okay, so with this we will understand, you know, some other parameters related to this EWS quota. So the report is the result of Supreme Court's repeated grilling of, okay, means like Supreme Court has repeatedly, you know, grilled this central government, that, like, I mean, like, you know, on what basis they have decided this 8 lakh cap and how did they calculate the economic, you know, data. So I mean, like, many students have filed cases in the Supreme Court of India related to 10% reservation in the National Eligibility Cum Entrance Test, which is in short known as NEET, for admission to medical colleges under the All India Quota, okay, category. And the court was hearing a batch of petitions by NEET aspirants. Okay, so this is the thing. And if we talk about the that expert committee or expert panel, it was formed by the, you know, central government, and it comprised, you know, some prominent people like Ajay Bhushan Pandey. He was the former finance secretary. Then it also includes VK Malhotra. He was the member secretary of ICSSR. Sanjeev Sanyal, Principal Economic Advisor to the Government of India. Okay, so like this particular thing included various expert people, okay, from the finance domain. With this, we will move to the next topic. Now this topic is also very interesting and it is a good topic. You will understand, you know, some important things related to changes in the GST structure. Okay, GST stands for Goods and Services Tax. So we will talk about, you know, certain measures related to it. Like this article talks about patchwork policy. The temporary rollback of tax hikes on textile is a harbinger of challenges before the GST regime. Okay, so now here you might be knowing that, like, you know, for taking decision related to changes in GST, the government has created a GST Council, and that GST Council has participation of the central government as well as the state governments. Okay, so they together vote upon a certain, you know, amendment, or like if they have to make certain changes, then they together sit and decide on that thing. So recently it was decided that they are going to change the GST rate for clothing and garment sector. Okay, for clothing, earlier the GST rate was 5%, but now the government was willing to impose 12%, you know, GST rate on these things. But just 9 hours before the New Year, okay, so government has decided that they are going to roll back this particular thing, or they are going to put on hold this, you know, changes in the GST rate for clothing sector for about a year, or at least for a quarter. Okay, so we will understand like what does, you know, the GST rate comprises of in the clothing sector, and related to this we will also understand about the inverted GST rate structure in clothing sector. Okay, so the government had, you know, taken this measure to address the problem of inverted duty structure in case of, you know, clothing sector. So we will understand that thing. So this decision was like this decision of not, you know, taking the 12% rate into action, means like, you know, not implementing the 12% rate for the clothing sector, was made at an emergency meeting of the GST Council. Okay, so this GST Council had earlier approved the higher tax rate on textiles at its last meeting in September 2021 to correct the anomaly of inverted duty structure. While the GST rate on man-made fiber is 18%, okay, means like people who are weaving the clothes. Okay, so man-made fiber, on man-made fiber, the GST rate was 18%. Then if we talk about yarn made from the same, was taxed at 12%, means like something which was made through the machines. Okay, so like, I mean, it had a GST rate of 12%, and the final fabric that was made, okay, it had a GST rate of 5%. So now it had an inverted duty structure. At the initial stage it was 18%, machine made it is, like yarn made it is 12%, and the final fabric that was made, okay, it had 5%. So it is inverted duty structure. It should be, you know, other way round at least. Okay, it should be other way round, or like there should be uniformity at the GST for the GST rate. Okay, so to address this inverted duty structure, the government of India had decided that they are going to implement 12% GST rate for clothing sector. But this has been put on hold. Okay, this has been put on hold. So we also had this inverted duty structure in case of, you know, rubber. Okay, rubber, like you might have studied this particular thing in economy section. So this is the thing, I mean, like they have given certain examples to explain this. In your free time you can just, you know, go through this particular article. I mean, like we will share this PPT with you. I have highlighted the most important issues related to it. Okay, so here, although the rate hike was aimed at helping producers get easier credit for taxes paid on input, that is not how it was seen by several players in the industry. Okay, so this is the thing, I mean, like there were many people who were opposing this particular move, but the thing is government is yet to look into this particular aspect. Like they will again relook into the consideration, and they may make certain changes. Till then they have put a hold on this, okay, they have put it off, okay, they are not implementing it at this point of time, okay. So they have postponed this particular thing for certain duration. It may be a quarter, means 3 months, or maybe a year, okay. So yet like we need to see the development in this particular case. So with this, now let us move to the next topic. This is again a very important topic for the day, okay. So we will understand about draft National Air Sports Policy, okay. It says that draft National Air Sports Policy pushes for safety standards, okay. It will cover activities like aerobatics, ballooning, paragliding and microlighting, okay. So the image that you can see over here, okay, like two people, I mean like they are doing paragliding activity over here, okay. This is known as beer billing in Himachal Pradesh, okay. So recently the government has drafted a policy, its name is National Air Sports Policy. So like we do have sports in air also. For example, like we have sports, for example we have like if we talk about cricket, if we talk about volleyball, if we talk about football, so these are the sports that are played on the ground. And similarly, like we have certain sports that are played on the air, okay. So name of those sports are aerobatics, ballooning, paragliding and lighting, okay. So for regulating the air sports, the government is bringing this policy, and under this policy they are going to have two-tier governance structure, okay. So they are going to have two-tier governance structure under this policy, and they are going to create two separate type of bodies, okay. One of the body will be apex level body, means like highest level body at the national level, and there will be committees. So we will talk about this particular thing. So government has on Sunday, means like yesterday itself, government has released a draft national policy for air sports in the country that will require entities providing these services and their equipments to be registered as well as liable for penalties, okay. Means like those entities that are providing these services means services related to air sports, these entities will have to be registered, and at the same time there will be provision for punishments also and liability, okay, provision for liability as well as punishment if in case they do not meet certain safety standards, okay. So this particular policy proposes a two-tier governance structure, okay. It proposes two-tier governance structure for air sports in the country, which will include an apex governing body which is called as Air Sports Federation of India, okay. So the highest level body under this particular policy will be Air Sports Federation of India, ASFI, okay. This is going to be the highest level body, and apart from this it will also have associations for each air sport, okay. It will have associations. For example, if we talk about paragliding, for paragliding as a separate sport, as a separate air sport, there will be a single association. For other activity like ballooning, there will be another like this association. So similarly there will be different associations for each kind of like air sports in the country, and to monitor and to regulate all these associations, there will be a apex level body which is known as Air Sports Federation of India, and it will cover activities like, okay, those activities are listed over here: aerobatics, aero modeling, amateur built and experimental aircraft, ballooning, drones, gliding, hang gliding, paragliding, microlighting, paramotoring, skydiving and vintage aircraft, okay. So these are the activities that are going to be regulated through this particular policy and by this particular body. So this Air Sports Federation of India, okay, will be an autonomous body under the Ministry of Civil Aviation, okay. So this particular body is going to work under the Ministry of Civil Aviation. So this can be a very, I mean, like, you know, important topic for the prelims exam as well. Like since it is a draft policy, government may, you know, notify anytime, they may, you know, make this policy, I mean, they may bring a law, and later on, you know, there may be a question in the prelims exam that this, the, you know, Air Sports Federation of India comes under which of the following ministries. So in that case, you need to remember the name of the ministry. The name of the ministry is Ministry of Civil Aviation, okay. Name of the ministry is Ministry of Civil Aviation, and it will represent India at the latest Lausanne headquartered, okay. So like, you know, in Lausanne, like there is a headquarter of Federation Aeronautique Internationale, okay. So like this is a name which is in French, okay. So it is a Federation of Aeronautique International, okay. So this is a body actually, you know, that gives a global platform for air sports in the world, okay. So like once this ASFI, Air Sports Federation of India, comes into existence, it is going to regulate the activities, and at the same time the competition in air sports will increase and people are going to get more, I mean, like, you know, professional in that area, and students from different colleges and universities in India, I mean, they will be able to participate in international level events that are being held by this federation, which is known as Federation Aeronautique Internationale, okay. This is a French term, okay, it is written in French, and other global platforms related to air sports, okay. So each air sports association will lay down its safety standard for equipment, okay. So as I talked about, like the air sports can be divided into different kind of sports. So for each sport there will be a association, and each association will lay down its own safety standards, okay. So for equipment, safety standards for equipment, infrastructure, personnel and training, and specify the disciplinary actions to be taken in case of non-compliance. Inability to do so may lead to penal action by the ASFI, means like those bodies, I mean, like these associations are going to lay down the safety standards, and if those safety standards are not being followed, in that case the Air Sports Federation of India can take disciplinary actions or can impose penalty, okay. So this is the thing. So here we will talk about that registration is a mandatory thing for, you know, those associations, entities and individuals that provide services related to I mean air sports, okay. So it says that registration required, okay, it is going to be a mandatory thing, okay. So all persons and entities providing air sports services will be required to register as members of the respective air sports associations. Key equipment used will also have to be registered, okay. So all persons and entities that are providing the, you know, services related to air sports, they have to get themselves registered with the respective association, and not only they have to register themselves, they also get their equipments, okay, equipments registered with the associations related to air sports, okay. So it is proposed that popular air sports attractions in the country such as, okay, so there are few places in India that are attractions that, you know, attract various you know, people from around the country in these places, and there people go and, you know, participate in the air sports. One of the places Bir Biling in Himachal Pradesh, then we have Gangtok in Sikkim, we have Hadaspur in Maharashtra, and we have Vagaman in Kerala, okay. So these are the places where people from around the country visit to participate in air sports. Okay, so these are the attraction places, means like places of attraction for people. So these places will be declared as control zone for air sports in order to ensure safety of other manned aircraft. Okay. So schools and colleges will be encouraged to include air sports in their curriculum, and their students will have the opportunity to participate in the FAI's international competition. Okay, FAI is a French term. I've already told you about it. Okay, Federation Aeronautic Internationale. Okay, so this is the thing. The draft policy also aims to promote domestic design, development and manufacturing of air sports equipment under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Okay, so this draft policy also aims to promote the manufacturing of the equipments for air sports in India itself. Okay, under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Okay, so this is the thing. With this, let us now move to the next topic. Okay, this is again a very important topic, one of the most important topic under government schemes. Okay, because like this scheme affects the lives of lakhs and lakhs of women in the country and the children who are born in institutions like hospitals in the country. Okay, so we will talk about a particular government scheme under this thing. We will talk about the health sector. Okay, after reading this particular topic, you will be in a position to understand like what is the name of the scheme, like what is the benefit that is given under this scheme, and like who are the beneficiaries, and at the same time like for how long this scheme has been in place, and what are the key recommendations to improve this scheme. Okay, so after this discussion you will understand that thing. So let us go through this article. It says state schemes can cast a lifeline to this welfare plan. Okay, so the headline itself says like this lifeline welfare plan, like we have a lifeline welfare plan, means like this scheme that we are going to talk about, this scheme is going to get benefited from the state schemes that are in place. Okay, so the scheme that we are going to talk about is the central scheme, and there are multiple state schemes. There are many state governments, for example Odisha, Telangana and many other states, they have brought about their own schemes, and those schemes are performing really well. So here the author is saying that this central scheme can get benefited from the state schemes. Okay, so what is that scheme? We are going to talk about Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana. Okay, Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana. It is not a new scheme. Before this, there was a similar scheme, and that scheme was named as like Indira Gandhi. Okay, so it has Indira Gandhi Matritva Sahyog Yojana, something like that. Okay, so what happens? The author says that India accounts for 1/5 of the total child births in the world. Means like in the world, if 5 children are getting birth, okay, if 5 children are born in the world, so 1 out of those 5 are born in India. Okay, so India has a maternal mortality rate of 113 per 1 lakh live births. It simply means like if 1 lakh live births are happening, out of 1 lakh live births, 113 women are dying during delivery. Okay, during labor. So on January 1, 2017, the government rolled out the Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, where a cash incentive of rupees of 5,000 is provided directly to bank post office accounts of pregnant women and lactating mothers for the first living child of the family. Okay, so under this particular scheme, Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, Government of India gives 5,000 rupees. Okay, it gives 5,000 rupees cash incentive, and it is given directly to the bank account or post office account of the pregnant women and lactating mothers for the first child of the family. Okay, So this particular scheme is given only for the first live child birth, okay. But before this scheme that was in place earlier, in that scheme the government used to give, you know, similar benefit for two children, okay, for two children. But like, you know, after the scheme was renamed, the, you know, number of children means like it was reduced, so it is now given for the first child birth, okay. It is aimed at improving health seeking behavior and to compensate for wage loss for pregnant women, particularly in the unorganized sectors, okay. What happens, I mean, like, you know, if we talk about women like who are employed in unorganized sector, these women do not get, I mean, like, you know, health benefit, or they do not get compensation during pregnancy. Means like when they are having pregnancy, when they are going to have, you know, childbirth, that time they are out of the job, and when they are out of the job they have, you know, livelihood threat. I mean, like, you know, they face difficulty in maintaining their livelihood. So this government scheme is aimed at giving incentive to women in unorganized sector and to compensate, you know, for the this, you know, wage loss, okay, compensate for the wage loss. So if we talk about, you know, the Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, so how does Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana works, okay. So here the government, this editorial is highlighting that, like, earlier, okay, earlier this, like I already talked about earlier, there was a scheme, that scheme was renamed. After renaming, you know, the women used to be, like earlier the women used to be beneficiaries for two childbirths, but now the women are beneficiaries for one childbirth, okay. This is one sea change. Second thing is, like, this whole scheme, I mean, like, this whole scheme receives very less funding. The author is also highlighting that, like, earlier there was a single scheme, this particular scheme, so there was, you know, dedicated funding for this scheme. But now recently the government has clubbed multiple schemes together and they are giving the same funding. I mean, like, they are not increasing the funding. Earlier there was one program, for example, for that program there was dedicated funding, but now they clubbed 5 programs, for example, and they are giving the similar funding. So, like, it is ultimately going to reduce the amount of funding that this particular scheme is going to receive, okay. So here the author is saying that this is a lifeline welfare plan. This is, you know, really a plan that is needed by the society. So it is important that government gives due consideration for this scheme, and they should increase the, you know, funding for this scheme. So this scheme comes under the Ministry of Women and Child Development, okay. So despite the government's continued emphasis on maternal and child health, the overall budget for women and child development was reduced by 20% for 2021 to 22, okay. Government is giving so much emphasis on, you know, nutrition of the children and nutrition of the women, childbirth, maternal mortality rate, infant mortality rate, under 5 mortality rate, lot of things, like government is giving so much attention to it. But despite giving all those attentions, the government has reduced the funding in these schemes by 20%. For example, let's consider earlier the government used to give 100 rupees for this scheme. Now the, you know, in the year of 2021 to 22, the government has given 80 rupees only, means like it has reduced by 20%, okay. So additionally, the budget allocation for Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana has also been slashed, as it has been clubbed under Samarthya along with multiple other schemes such as Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Mahila Shakti Kendra, and gender budgeting or research training, okay. So government has, you know, reduced the funding for these schemes, and like they have clubbed multiple schemes, but like overall funding has reduced, okay. So this is the thing here. The core point that the author wants to make is, like, budgetary allocation for this particular lifeline scheme which is known as Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, should be increased. Author is saying budget allocation should increase. Second thing is, author is saying that, like, you know, this scheme should also include 2 live childbirths. I mean, like, you know, if a single woman is going to have 2 births, let's consider one baby this year and another baby, you know, after 1 year or some other, after few years, in that case, the women should get benefit in both the cases, okay, not only in one case. Okay. So here this particular article also names few schemes, okay, that are in place in different state governments. The author is comparing, okay, the author is comparing the schemes that are being run by state governments and this Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, okay. So here, like, we have Mamata scheme, okay, we have Mamata 2011 scheme. This is known as the maternity entitlement scheme, okay. So this is run in one of the state governments. Then we have KCR kit. So this scheme came into place in 2017, okay. It is in the state of Telangana. Mamata scheme is in the state of Odisha. Then, like, you know, we have like under the KCR kit, the government gives items such as baby oil, soaps, mosquito net and dresses. And we have another scheme which is known as Dr. Muthu Lakshmi Reddy Maternity Benefit Scheme, okay, Dr. Muthu Lakshmi Reddy Maternity Benefit Scheme. And this has relatively increased coverage and higher maternity benefit, okay. So Odisha's Mamata, for instance, has been offering a conditional cash transfer of 5,000 as maternity benefit for up to 2 live births for more than a decade, okay. So the author is saying, like, even Odisha government is giving, you know, this particular incentive of 5,000 rupees for up to 2 live births, okay, and it has been running for more than a decade in that state. So author is saying, like, what steps can be taken? One of the steps that the author is saying is extend the maternity benefit under this Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana to second live birth also. Secondly, the author is saying that there must be an increase in the maternity benefit amount, okay. So author is saying that the amount that is given, it should also be increased, okay. Then this should be like extended for second live birth also. So this is the thing. At the same time, the author is suggesting that, like, we should simplify the process. As of now, the process is very difficult for a common person to get the benefit from the government, okay. So government has created certain bottlenecks in the process itself, okay, that becomes very difficult for a common citizen, for a common woman or her husband, okay, to follow to get the benefit under this scheme. So here the author is saying that we need to simplify the process. One of the things that the author is suggesting is, like, we need to eliminate the correction queues, okay. So what happens, like, for example, there is a hospital. In the hospital, you know, all the activities are happening. Activities in the sense, like, you know, people are getting treated. There is an institutional delivery in the hospital. But, like, when it comes to getting the benefit under this scheme, there is long queue, like, people are in line, okay, to get their document corrected. Why? Because this particular scheme has lot of, you know, steps to be followed. So the author is saying, like, we should eliminate the correction queues, okay. So further, the implementation gaps in the Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana scheme lead to reduced coverage. These gaps stem from lack of awareness within targeted beneficiaries and process level challenges, okay. Then the current registration form requires a mother and child protection card, okay. The present registration process requires a mother and child protection card. It requires husband's Aadhaar card, bank passbook and registration form for each of the 3 installments, okay. So it results in delay, many of the cases are rejected and it leads to pendency of the applications, okay. So to fulfill India's commitment towards sustainable development goal of improving maternal health, the ambitious Prime Minister's overarching scheme for holistic nourishment, which is known as Poshan Abhiyan, okay, and the National Maternity Benefit scheme are promising initiative by the center. Here the author is suggesting that, like, you know, these two schemes, one is Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana. The second scheme is this Poshan Abhiyan. Okay, these two schemes are very promising schemes. These are very good schemes, but like we should reduce the bottlenecks, we should make the process simple, and we should allocate more funds. Okay, we should allocate more people to work, to implement these schemes. So it will lead to, fulfill India's commitment towards the sustainable development goal for improving maternal health. Okay, so the author is saying these targets can be achieved if, like, we give due importance to some of the factors, like, like increased budgetary allocation and simplifying the overall process. With this, we will move to the next topic. Okay. This topic is about financial standing of the RBL Bank. Why did the bank's stock suddenly plummet? Why are investors still wary despite the RBI's assurance? Okay. So this RBL Bank is a very new bank. It is a small bank. Okay. So it is regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. But suddenly what has happened? This bank had, certain stocks in the market. Okay. So the value of the stocks has reduced suddenly. Reserve Bank of India has given an assurance to the stockholder of this particular bank, but still the investors are, feeling that, like, their money is in danger. I mean, like, they are risk averse. The investors are risk averse. They are trying to, take out their money from this schemes, from this particular bank. So we will understand the gist only related to this. I mean, like, we will not look into so much related to a particular bank. Okay. The step down of the RBL Bank CEO caused the bank's stock to plummet. The RBI appointed an interim CEO as it felt that the board needs, closer support in regulatory matters. Okay, what has happened? Like, the chief executive officer of the RBL Bank, he has stepped down, means like he has resigned from his post, and after his resignation, stock prices of this particular bank has gone down. It has gone down sharply. So Reserve Bank of India has taken proactive action. It has appointed another CEO. Okay, it has appointed an interim CEO. Okay, but still, like, the things are going to unfold in this situation. So as of September 30, 2021, RBL Bank's capital adequacy ratio was at 16.33% as against the minimum Basel norm of 10%. The bank's liquidity coverage ratio was over 150% as against the regulatory requirement of 100%. So I mean, like, the RBL Bank was performing well, okay, before September 30, 2021. Many consider the RBI's intervention to be a matter of serious concern and believe that the trouble may be brewing in the RBL Bank behind closed doors. Okay, so many investors are risk averse. They are concerned about their money. So they are saying, like, since RBI has intervened into the RBL Bank's matter, so, like, something might be going on behind the doors that we are not aware of. So to safeguard our money, we should take out our money. So this is the concern. Okay, you should read this article to understand it better. With this, we will quickly move to solve a prelims practice question. Okay, so let us solve a prelims practice question. Practice prelims MCQ. Okay, so with reference to India, the terms halbi, ho and kui pertains to. Okay, here, like, they are saying with reference to India, these three terms pertain to which of the following? One of the term is halbi, H-A-L-B-I. second is ho, third is kui. What does these terms mean? Okay, these are tribal languages. Okay, so correct answer is D for this question. Halbi is a tribal language that is spoken in Bastar region. It is spoken in Bastar region in the state of Chhattisgarh. Okay, so ho is again a tribal language. It is spoken in, okay, it is spoken in Odisha and Jharkhand. It is spoken in Odisha and Jharkhand by the tribals. Then Kui is another language that is spoken by the tribals. So these are tribal languages. So correct answer for this question is option D. Okay. So that's all that I had to discuss with you for the day. Thank you so much everyone for attending the session. I hope you have a good day ahead. Thank you.
Sir?
Yes.